Welcome to the Secondary Technology Cohort Google Hangout live on air. We are inviting in our classroom host teachers. They're joining us. I see Diane and Lynette and Kay.
Pam and I should.
And there's Pam. So it looks like everyone is here. The goal of this live event is to allow cohort participants to come together and discuss what happened during the day, as well as take a time to ask questions and share ideas, comments with the cohort panel. This collaborative conversation will be especially valuable for those who were not able to observe host teachers today. Please share your questions and ideas on the 81- back channel. Debbie is going to feed those questions to me, and then we will ask those questions of our host teachers for today. At this time, we're going to give each host teacher an opportunity to share a few minutes about their lesson today and what technology tools they integrated during their lesson. So we'll start with our first block, first host teacher, Diane.
Okay, today we did a interactive flyer using postermywall.com, and the technology was that website, and the students, I used the net support to monitor what they were doing, and let me think. Oh, and the internet went down right when we started. But everything went pretty good, and I think that the kids, they were real receptive to Amos and the whole team. I was really proud of them we had 16 in there at one time this morning. So, but other than that, you know, the technology has been great. All right, whose turn?
Lynette, you're next.
Today we used Google Slides, which is a bit new for the kids. They have experience with PowerPoint, so they have a few quirks in how to make it different and how to hyperlink slides within the presentation. That was another new factor for them. By the time I got finished with my debriefing, one of my students who speaks very little English, I have to write things down for her because she doesn't understand accents, and by the time I got finished with my debriefing and went back 25 minutes later, she was actually finished with the entire project. So I think once the kids got used to using the new format of slides instead of PowerPoint, kind of got them out of their comfort zone, it went very well.
Okay. Pam?
I took a little different approach in that I didn't use one single program. The kids had to come up with their own idea of how to represent a cell and the cell structures and functions. And so they could use either a whiteboard app or they could use Poplet, any type of application that they wanted to present their projects. Some of them chose to stay a little bit more in their comfort zone and draw the pictures out, but then they also had to take pictures of that and then submit it electronically anyway. So there had to be a component for technology used in their programs. But I did feel that this early in the year and just trying to learn the technology myself, that I was better off letting the kids choose what format to put it in and especially try to match it to the type of project that they presented to me.
Okay, and Kay?
Yes, we did a lab yesterday in which we were collecting data, and today we were graphing that data using two variables, and we used the app Numbers on the iPad. And with that app, we were able to go in and not only make a data chart, but also insert that into a graph, do our line of best fit, plot our points, to do the slope, and then after the children finished their assignments, they were able to upload that to Edmodo and submit it all in one class period.
Okay, so if you don't know these teachers by name or know these teachers well, Diane was our person who was different today. She teaches a computer applications course, and it was image design, correct, first block? Okay. The other three teachers, Lynette, Pam, and Kay, all teach science. So we had a science day here at Greenwood High. Debbie, do we have some questions?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, people are wondering what were some challenges that maybe teachers face today?
Right. So, do any of our panel teachers, would any of you like to share some of the challenges you experienced today, going out of your comfort zone a little bit and trying out some new things?
My biggest challenge has been the submission process. I have tried AirDrop in my class, and I have also tried Edmodo, and it's trying to match, I think, the turn-in process with the project that I'm having the most difficulty with, and making sure that the kids go through the right steps each time in order to get them submitted properly. That's my biggest challenge.
Anyone else?
I would have to agree with Pam, even though I thought we had a simple solution today in that numbers allowed us to open their graphs in the Edmodo app. I thought, how easy would this be? But they forget their username, they forget their password, and it eats up a lot of our class time going back. I'm sure as we continue to use it, that will become something that, if nothing else, we'll write it down on a chart somewhere. But we wasted, I guess, a lot of class time having to go back and change passwords or look information up again for them to get into Edmodo to submit their assignment.
Okay.
Okay, could Diane and Lynette talk a little bit about Google Classroom? There's a lot of interest on 81 about Google Classroom.
I really like it a lot. It has worked very well for me this year. I post my assignments on the Classroom. I post my notes on the Classroom. Anything that they need to kind of direct them, not necessarily a worksheet, but maybe a table to compare things, stuff like that. I also post those as an assignment, so every student gets a copy. It's really easy for students to turn it in because they click on it and there's a button that says turn in. So that makes it really easy. I also like that there's a component where the students it says share with my class, and the students can write and share their own research, and then other kids can also access research that the students have posted on there and kind of collaborate with each other as well. So it's worked very well for me. Getting the kids to change to Google Docs and Google Slides, that sort of thing, they're a tad bit reluctant because they want to drop into Word immediately. They want to use Explorer immediately. So it's kind of, we're getting better, but it's sort of encouraging them to go towards the Google format that has been the challenge. But they're getting there, and it really does make it easy, and they know where everything is. They know how to turn it in. Of course, we had to have the discussion of what kinds of things are appropriate to post because they can type anything in there. So we had a heart-to-heart discussion about, that it was a platform for school and it needed to be used for school purposes, and make sure that we kind of put some parameters on that. But they've been really good, and I haven't seen anything in any way that I needed to remove, and I can make notes on people's, different students' work on there and say, make sure, did you think about this? And I've had students comment on other students' work too and say, hey, y'all remember she said to blah, 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 and then, the project I get is actually better than the one that was posted for the class to see. So it really has been very helpful.
The same here with me. The kids have just jumped right in with it, and they are out of their comfort zone using the Google Docs. So I think this is a good chance to introduce them to it, because next year, they will be Google Docs. And another thing that I like about it too is when you create the class, it gives you the option to send them all an email at one time. Just like today, I sent the email out about the Power School app for the students that Mr. Evans sent out, and I sent that app out. I sent it out with attached the directions, and we got our phones out, and most of them went ahead and downloaded that app today. That was very easy for them to do.
And also that they can access it from anywhere. Sorry, Greta.
Yeah.
But it's helpful because then even at home, and I think that helps parents too, because parents can see what we're doing. They can pull it up at home, so it doesn't have to be on school. So having it, universal wherever they are on whatever device, I think is helpful to them too, because they have their notes with them wherever they are.
All right, this question is about co-teaching, I guess, with Amos in the classroom. Did you all feel it was effective? Was it helpful? How did you feel about the co-teaching?
Well, he was really good, and my kids enjoyed him. I mean, he started. I mean, they were very receptive to it, and I was very impressed when everybody that was in there with me, all 16 people, everybody jumped in to start helping the kids with their work today. And they saw a different side of some of the administrators and everything because they were actually working through it with them.
Our observation groups were a little bit larger than we might have anticipated. Originally, we had planned to keep that around 5, but some of our observation groups, for those of you who were not here today, grew to 12 and sometimes 13, but everyone handled it with a lot of grace, students and teachers. And the observers did actually participate, moving around the room, asking students what they were working on, stepping in to help students that were maybe struggling a little bit or a little bit behind the rest of their classmates.
Okay, next question. What should teachers be aware of before teaching a lesson that relies so much on technology?
I would say you have to be willing to make adapt.
Okay, so adapt, be willing for flexibility, and I think be willing to allow the students to give input if there's a better way to do something. Any other thoughts?
One of the things that helped me, I think, today is once I had decided on using numbers, I practiced my own self multiple times with space in between so that I could try to troubleshoot things that I thought might come up just from my own experience. And not that I had all the answers, but I do know that it helped.
I did do a quick run through with mine on yesterday just to make sure that everybody could get into the website and they knew where to log in and all those kinds of things, just to kind of troubleshoot before everybody got in there this morning.
And mine is let the kids teach, because some of them know more about the programs than we do. And so when I find a kid that's in the classroom that knows the steps better than I do or has more experience, I let them demonstrate to the rest of them. So a lot of peer teaching goes on with the apps, and you encourage it.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do differently next time? And we'll kind of go in order if you don't mind. Diane, what do you think that you might do differently? And if you wouldn't do anything differently, why?
I don't think I'd really change a whole lot of it because I think the lesson went very well, and I was very impressed with the ones that jumped in and did want to help, and the students were actually helping each other too. We call each other elbow buddies. If they get in trouble and I'm helping someone else, but I mean, only thing I would change, I would try to do something like Amos showed us, to give them a 5-minute challenge and then see how far they've got with it, within the next 5 minutes, and check on them all. That'd be the only thing I would change.
What Amos did in Diane's class is she started to teach the students how to use the tech tool, and he waited till she got to a good stopping place, and then he encouraged the students to take 5 minutes, play with the application, see what they could figure out on their own, and then ask any questions they had after the 5 minutes was up. Lynette, would you change anything?
The only thing that I think kind of bogged us down a little was the lack of experience with slides, but I also think the only way to get experience is to try it. So I think there's a time factor where we just have to allow them to get in there and do it. Before the students ever touched the computers, I gave them a demonstration of what it needed to look like, what the end product should look like. I showed them websites that had similar tasks on there for them to use, and I showed them how to map it out and how to plan it and how to prepare it before they ever touched the computer. but it took the students sitting down and trying it for themselves. So maybe as a pre-lesson, have them explore it at home and have them, let them know ahead of time that we're going to be using slides. Try it out. See what you can do. Find out what your differences are in PowerPoint. But it's just one of those things where they have to try it. And until they actually sit down and start working on it themselves, no matter what I show them or how many steps I give them, unless I just do it for them, which is not the point of this entire thing, they're just going to have to give it a go. And so maybe letting them know ahead of time that we would be using slides so they could prepare it on their own before class could be the only thing I could think of that would help that at all.
I'm kind of along the same lines with that, letting them play with the apps, having, I don't know if you would call it a play day or something, or some kind of little activity, just like a get to know the program kind of thing, and just spend one day. And on a 90-minute block, you could cover several different apps doing that, and I don't think you would lose that much class time. But I think a get to know you app day, maybe.
I don't think I would really change very much about what I did today. Overall, I think it went well. I do know that as part of not only learning the app, I was also teaching the requirements of my graph at the same time. So I wanted to make sure that my students knew it has to have a title, it has to have the axis label. So it was really my first time teaching what I want out of a graph. At the same time we were using technology. I don't know if maybe we had already covered how to make a good graph. That might have made the technology part go better, but I think it worked well the way we did it.
We've had a question about whether or not you would be willing to share your lesson plans. If you're a member of the secondary technology cohort group, if you go to your Google Drive and you look under Shared with Me, or on your iPad it'll be under Incoming, you should see a folder that says Secondary Technology Cohort, and inside that folder is a lesson plan folder, and the lesson plans from today are in the folder. So if you need to access them, that's how you can do it. If you go to Shared with Me or Incoming and you do not see a Secondary Technology Cohort folder, shoot me an email, fling@gwd50.org, because somehow I missed you and I need to share it with you. And I'll ask Debbie if she will put my email address on the back channel for you. We've had lots of questions about Google Docs and Google Apps, and I definitely think that's a direction that we're all going. Lessons together motivates you in any way to do further preparation for using Google products and getting ready for that Chromebook rollout. So in other words, did using Google stuff today make you want to use it more in the future?
I do. I mean, I would use it. I mean, just for the kids, and it's so convenient that once you save what you do on your Google Drive, you can just pull it right up wherever you are on your iPad, iPhone, wherever, and there it is, and you can continue working on it. As long as you've got I guess it's Wi-Fi. As long as you've got the Wi-Fi.
We've been using it all year, so well, it wasn't just today. So I do plan to continue to use it. It's very handy for me and the students.
Well, I think we started the same day. The first day they rolled it out to the teachers, that's the day that we picked it up.
Okay. Why did you choose the tool you chose to use today? Or why did you choose to give students choice in what tools they use today?
I decided to give my kids choice so that they'd be comfortable and that they could create the project within the time limits that I set up. And also that some of them were creating pictures, some of them were creating stories, some plays, some were doing multiple posters. So it was the format that fit best, and see if they could actually choose what fits best. A lot of times in science, that's what we're asking them to do, choose the tool that's going to accomplish the task.
I specifically chose mine because doing the lab that we were doing yesterday required making a graph, and I normally take my students to the computer lab and learn to do graphs in Excel, and I thought, well, maybe there's an easy way to do it on the iPads, and it was so much easier, and so it served a direct purpose for the lesson that we were covering at this time.
I didn't necessarily let them choose the tools, but I did let them choose their topic that they wanted to do an interactive flyer on. Because to me, they respond better if you give them, let them be more creative with what they do instead of me giving them the images and everything to do it. So that way, you know, it kind of brought them together. They did it all together, so it was good.
For us, since we submit our work on Google Classroom anyway, Slides was just the easiest, best format for us to be able to directly submit it right from the drive with no compatibility issues or anything like that. So that's why we chose Slides. Also, I was thinking kind of ahead, they're going to have Chromebooks next year. They have to get used to these programs anyway. So in trying to make sure that they are able to create their digital dichotomous key and still be able to post it on the classroom, Slides was just the fit we needed.
And I would like to say that in Lynette's room, she did specify the tools students were to use, but she really participates in the Bring Your Own Tech program. And so even though they were in the computer lab, some of the students were on desktop computers, but there were also students that brought in their own laptops from home and their own devices. Even students that were using the computers in the lab were often on multiple devices at the same time. So they might have a desktop computer up in the lab, but then have their phone beside them also, so that they could be looking at two screens at once. Can you talk to us a little bit about why you allow Bring Your Own Tech in your class and what kind of adventure that's been this year?
Well, it really has been helpful overall. I think it's an excellent idea. A few of the drawbacks are, I guess, my unfamiliarity with certain kinds of phones, because I have an iPhone and we've had some Droid issues here and there, but we figured it out. The kids helped me figure it out, and you know, like I said earlier, by the time I get to fourth block, I know how to work a Samsung. So, but I think letting the kids use their own technology makes it more real for them, and I think they value it more when they can use their technology, and I see a lot more participation because, you know, everybody wants to have that phone now. They want to be able to use their own devices, and it's really very motivating for them to be able to do that. And so I've seen lots of engaged students who maybe otherwise wouldn't be, and it's getting everybody participating. And for those who don't have any kind of device, I always have options for them as well. There's always laptops in my room that I checked out from the library that they can share, and occasionally when they're available, I get the iPads as well. So it really has helped to keep the students active and on task and doing it. Like today, when they were on their phone, they weren't just playing on their phone, they were pulling up their research that we did earlier in last week. We did several different things like a pic collage and a Poplet that covers this material. So they're using those other devices as resources to accomplish what I want in class, and that's my goal anyway. So why not use your phone if it gets you there?
And Amos is not with us because he had to catch a flight in Greenville this afternoon, and we were a little bit concerned that if he waited too late, he wasn't going to make it through traffic and security to get on the plane. But correct me if I'm wrong, those of you who were here, you can correct me on the back channel, and for our host teachers, just go ahead and chime in. But one of the things that seemed to be consistent throughout the day was the idea of students taking ownership of their own learning and even stepping into a leadership role. I know in Kay's class he had a student actually go up front and they projected their iPad and went through the steps as she called them out and modeled for the other students in the room, and that freed Kay up to walk around and look at the devices and make sure the students seemed to be on track. Throughout the day, we've also seen a lot of students helping other students appropriately without causing any sort of disruption. Kay, how did it feel to have a student walk to the front of the room and sort of take over a little bit?
Well, I feel blessed in that that student did follow directions extremely well, because I can anticipate that sometimes if a student was not as comfortable as this young lady was, that it could be somewhat of a deterrent. But it went really well, and it was a little scary for me because I was still learning how to use numbers, and without my cheat notes that I had up at the front, I was afraid I'd leave something out, but it went fine. I did enjoy walking around. I think I mentioned to you earlier my large class with 36 this morning. Walking around becomes extremely difficult anyway, so I would have to evaluate class by class, but it worked out great this afternoon.
Speaking of large class sizes, most of our classes today were over 30 students. And we have had some questions on the back channel about classroom management ideas for large classes, and especially allowing students to do collaborative work in these large classes.
One of the things that we pointed out in our debriefing with my class was that making sure that you've limited the time. If you extend the time too far, then they get complacent and they're just going to get off track. But if you give them an assignment and there is enough time to finish the assignment, but not too much time built in, it does keep them on task and keeps them under control. And my class was 36, and they were working because they knew that it was due by the end of class.
Amos did bring up several times the idea of keeping students focused by giving them short tasks to complete, giving them a time limit, and when the time limit's up, moving on to the next task. And he mentioned that as sort of a general classroom management technique, but I think it would transfer over fairly well to a large class too. So you might have a large project, but instead of having students work for 2 or 3 days on the project, you have several tasks for day 1 that they're to complete, several tasks for day 2 that they're to complete, and break it down that way. We have had some compliments for our host teachers today on the back channel also, and I'm going to ask Debbie to share some of those with me.
All right, Lynette's use of slides was a great example of how technology enhances the standards.
She's scrolling through. Bear with us a minute.
They like the idea of having the students explore the app before instruction, which we just talked about.
A lot of I enjoyed it. Thank you for having us. Great lesson today.
Wonderful learning opportunity for everybody. Love seeing all the different ideas. Basically, big time props to you 4 ladies.
I am going to try to show a video that I recorded with Amos before he left with his reflections for the day. I'm not sure if this is going to work or not. Hopefully, in a minute, you will see a video pop up on your screen with Amos, and he will be talking. Your screen may freeze just for a minute while I work on this. If we crash and burn, I will share that link out over 81- later on this afternoon. So cross your fingers. Let's see how this goes. I don't know, guys. It looks like a pretty large download. We'll give it just another second to go and see what happens. In the meantime, what worked especially well today? Diane, what was the best thing that happened for you today?
I guess it was the teachers within District 50 that came through that they were very, very supportive of us, and they were wanting to learn more about what we did and, you know, how, for me, how I manage 35 kids and 35 computers every day. And that's when I went into my spiel about we have elbow buddies, because I have to have them to help me, because, you know, I tell them it's one of me and 70 of y'all, counting the computers. So it went good. I mean, they were very, very supportive, and I was very appreciative of that, because
Okay.
I was nervous.
We're going. I'm a little nervous right now too, hoping this will work. I'm going to try one more time. If it doesn't work, I will share that out over the back channel. Here goes. Can you see my screen? Yes? No?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, here it goes.
Greenwood High School teachers, thank you so much for your hospitality, your creativity, your willingness to take risks and try new things. I'm as humbled and impressed as I was when we did our collaboration in early August about your creativity, your freedom to innovate, and I'm thankful once again for your hospitality and everything you were able to share with us. We had a total of 46 people come and go over the course of 4 classroom assignments. That's an impressive number of people. I would venture to say that the reflections after the classroom visits is where we really got to talk deeply about learning for kids, learning for adults. And the big ideas that came up for me are certainly the idea of professional development happening more informally, more casually, more collaboratively. I don't think we need to go to district office or a conference or out of state in order to learn. We can learn from one another in a way that's powerful and fruitful. I think we modeled that today. I think we also revealed an important question that we'll probably end up spending the rest of the year answering, and that is, how do we make and build kids who can think more independently, more deeply? How can we create lessons that empower kids to collaborate more meaningfully and authentically? We saw excellent examples of small group assignments today where kids had unique roles, where they were holding one another accountable for their work, they were engaged. We saw tremendous creativity on the part of teachers who, in the reflection, told their peers and us that they were trying new things for the first time. Thank you so much for taking these risks. I thank you for modeling this behavior with colleagues, and I'm looking forward to Northside when we get to do this all over. Thank you.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to end with a comment from the back channel that I think speaks very nicely about the experience today, and that is, thank you to all the teachers for allowing us to observe, and thanks to the district for allowing us to do this. A huge thank you to our host teachers here at Greenwood High who went first and did something that was pretty scary a little bit, but turned out to be a wonderful day. I hope everyone has a great afternoon. I know Amos's video was not especially loud, so I will share that video out with you either on the back channel or through our secondary technology cohort Google Drive folder, maybe both places. So you can listen to it and maybe boost the volume a little bit. Thank you so much. Good afternoon.